Hello there, can you hear me? Hi, my name is Jen from New York, and I'm so excited to be here with you guys. And I first have to share that I'm really nervous today because I think that we've all experienced COVID brain and we've been separated and have been missing so much connection. And for me, I felt that for the last few months, it's been so hard to get clarity. So tonight, my story is about finding clarity and using something that's very scary to propel us to grow and find creativity in different ways, and that's death. So hear me out because I don't want to scare you away already. But the story that I want to share about is about a girl who I grew up with, whose nickname was Crybaby. And for the first 5 years of her life, that was all we knew her as. And this was my cousin. But in Chinese culture, we call our first cousins sisters. And so she was my sister, and we grew up together. So beyond those first 5 years, and then later into the next 10, 15, 20, what became of my cousin Victoria was this girl who was a crybaby, and she shifted in 2011. And it was because this timid, shy girl who always had a hard time expressing herself and would always be the last to speak up found out that she was diagnosed with cancer. This was 2011. It was 2 months before her college graduation. This tiny, anxious girl all of a sudden had a choice. She had a choice to confront her diagnosis or not. So she decided to go back home and get treatment. She left college 2 months before her final exams and started chemo. And now chemo, if any of you guys have not experienced that before, and I hope nobody does, but often I hear that whenever you start talking about it, you'll have a friend or a friend's friend who might have experienced it. But chemo is basically like injecting poisons into your system, so it really, really is hard on your body. So when she started this treatment, we weren't sure what it would be like. This was a first experience for my entire family. But this quiet girl, she took this treatment on. She later had her first surgery. And somehow, in the first 4 years between her first diagnosis and then until later on, something happened. She grew from this timid girl to this wise woman well beyond her years. In this last 4 years, between her diagnosis and later on, they were her most prolific. She ended up going back home to study, finish up all her exams from home, and graduating on time. She insisted on walking with her class despite losing her hair from the chemo treatment. And when she went to the graduation, she walked loud and proud. And she had a gang of 40 friends and professors who came out to cheer her on. She later went to start a nonprofit. It was called Cooks and Books. And this was a nonprofit where they would go into the city and teach kids how to cook, because her first passion was food, and to help nurture people through food was her joy. She went on to volunteer with kids with cancer similar to herself. And as she did all these things, she became louder, not in volume, not in the way that she spoke, but in her energy and her spirit. And that spirit was contagious. But her real dream, beyond all these things that she was already starting to do, was to become a dietitian. In college, she was a nutrition major. Her dream was to help people eat well and be well through food. So when she found out that she had another surgery, she had a choice again. It was another crossroads. She had the choice to sit at home and go through the surgery, or she had a choice to take her dietitian exam. And mind you, this is an exam that most people take up to a year to study for. But she made a decision. She fast-forwarded the exam. She would take it in a week right before her surgery, and that was it. And that was her commitment. In that final week, it was like a movie. I really wasn't sure what the outcome would be. But the day before her surgery, she found out that she passed her dietitian license exam. She was an official dietitian. She went on to become one of the best dietitians in one of New York City's best hospitals, and this was between her chemo treatments and her surgeries. She went on to serve patients in the hospital while she was a patient herself, and she became one of the most loved people in her hospital by her nurses and by her doctors. So the story here comes to another point. When she got to this optimal point in her career, she found out that she needed a final surgery. At this point, she had gone through so much, it was already year 4, that I had no doubt she would be fine. So the day before the surgery, I patted her on the head and said, "You're going to be great. I'll see you tomorrow." And she said to me, "Jen, I feel like I've been given some time. I'm not sure if it's extended time and extended death or prolonged life, but I really think it's the latter, and I really love how I've spent my time." That was 2015, and that was the last time I saw her. But like I mentioned to you, this story is not about death in its finality. It is about beginning and how we use it as a creative palette for living more fully. In the last 4 years of her life, those are her most prolific. She left a legacy because of the way that she loved. She inspired people to act because she acted. She inspired people to be generous with their time and their energy because she was that way. She inspired change because on her worst days after a surgery or treatment, she would turn to you and ask, "How are you doing? How's your day?" And later on, doctors would whisper in my ear and say, "Her pain level is almost at a 10 out of 10 right now, right?" And you would never know from the way that she talked or the way that she would pat me on the head and ask me how my day was. So I'll end this story here by saying that we all have choice. How do you choose to spend your time? How do you choose to love? How do you choose to use life as a creative palette for creating the things that you love? She taught me about the preciousness of time and the preciousness of life. And if I could leave you all with anything today, it would be that thought. Thank you for letting me share with you.